So it gave us a fun way to kind of talk about that. What we found out is, the reason we chose specifically 96, we found out that just under half of all American teens had ever been online at this time. So it was still very, very new. And so that's why we said it then. And it was fun doing the research, going back, and because we were both alive then. And, but of course, thinking things happened in 96 when it actually happened in 97, and having to pinpoint what TV shows were popular, what movies. We set our book in a specific week in 96. And like I found this website, we can see exactly what was on TV that week. And we found out Friday of that week was the series finale of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So like our characters live on the East Coast and they've already seen it, but like the main character calls his brother who lives in Seattle, and his brother's, he can hear it in the background, he's just now watching the finale. He's like, don't tell me what it is. We had a lot of fun with that kind of planning.
That's really awesome. Yeah, pop culture. Well, if you haven't guessed, Eve is a post-apocalyptic book. And there's dystopian elements to it, although I've always thought of it kind of more as post-apocalyptic. But I knew I wanted to set it in the very near future, and instead of creating a completely new world, I wanted it to be like a slight offshoot of our world. Like what would happen, I don't want to scare anyone in here, but like what would happen if like there was a massive, massive earthquake, like, you know, tomorrow or something. Like what would happen to everybody, or some huge disaster, like an unfathomable disaster. How would we move on from that? Would we stay true to the values our country was founded on, or would we follow the first leader who had a clear vision? So the book is 2041, technically. A little side note is that I really wanted this huge apocalypse plague to sweep through at 2016, and the book would be set at 2032. And they were like, no, actually, because of this book, like in 4 years, if someone picks this up, they'll be like, what are you talking about? This huge plague that's swept through and killed everybody. That makes no sense. So for me, it was really, it played into the world and how I wanted to build that world.
Well, mine's set in present day. It's happening right now in Nantucket, but it's sort of like it can flip through pretty much any decade you want. I don't have any pop culture references at all. Like the only thing that I talk about is the electric cars. Everybody's getting one now. Like that's as far as I go. Because for me, since it's about a story that is universal, it's based on the Iliad. It can be told now. It can be told 10 years from now. It can be told 50 years ago. This is the main thing that time does in my book is that it just goes to show that there are some things that can stretch back thousands of years that still are the same now as they were when, you were reading if you read something in history class, it's like, I want you to be able to picture, they really are just like me. Like Helen of Troy, Paris, they were teenagers and they fell in love. And that can happen then, that can happen now. So for me, time is a constant. It's just a universal thing. It's more about the story.
Okay, so my second question is, each of your titles can fit into a genre description very easily. Time travel, science fiction, mythology, and dystopian or post-apocalyptic. Did you set out to write within that specific genre? Or did your characters dictate their story and then you had to kind of know what you were thinking into that type of genre?
I know with The Future of Us, Carolyn and I talked a lot about what genre really is this, because they're seeing into the future. It's set in the past, and yet we wanted it to feel very real. So we came up with our own genre. We call it contemporary historical sci-fi romance.
Really easy to describe and put on a placeholder.
We're the only one, go to the bookstore, we're the only one under that category.
So it's funny, I didn't even know that this was a genre until I kept noticing my book in the same shelf in all the bookstores. Teen paranormal romance. But it's interesting, I never really thought of it as like a total paranormal supernatural thing. I was always just writing about two people that fall
adult novel that was all kinds of bad. And I were like exploring that question for about a year in this novel about this woman who was in this Walton compound and part of a government experiment, and it never really worked. And there was something always missing. Like my friends who would read it would be like, "Well, why is there a wall? Like I don't get it." Like but there was something there, and I kept pursuing that. And then what I was really interested in was, how do you relearn your life once you find out that everything you learned was a lie? Like, how do you start again? How do you go out into the world at that character was 29 or 30 or something, and kind of reconcile what you've been taught with what you're learning every day, and how do you begin again? And when I put that kind of concept, that idea in a post-apocalyptic setting, it was like boom, 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 all these bells went off. Because what better way to explore the idea of kind of rebirth than a setting where everything is over and literally everything is beginning again. So it just felt so natural and so organic. And when I started writing Eve, it was I was like, oh, I was never even supposed to write that novel. That was just the blueprint for this novel. So.
For me, it was, I've studied classical theater at NYU, which is never going to get you a job. I'm just telling you that right now. But I love it, and I've always loved fantasy, and I've always loved science fiction. I was that geek that grew up watching Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I knew what every single character with all their subplots and everything. I've always loved it. I grew up reading Dragon Riders of Pern, and I always wanted to create I always wanted to do that, geek out on my own, and be I'm going to create my own world. So I kind of put that together with what I loved, the classical stuff, and a classical Greek play structure, 5-act structure. But I couldn't write a play. I tried writing screenplays, and I'm not very good at it. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll try writing a book. And for me, it just fit a coming-of-age story. Fit a teen heroine was the story. Helen of Troy was a teenager. It just sort of all fit. And I was like, what if I had these people fighting it out in high school? And just like you said, you saw that scene. I saw that scene that I read to you where she attacks him in the hallway. Everyone's like, what the heck is wrong with this psycho girl? I saw that scene so perfectly that I was like, okay, it's high school. We're going to do this in high school. And so for me, it was sort of the genre fit the best idea I'd come up with so far for a book. And I sort of tailored it after that. It was no, I'm going to make this, no cussing, no, I cut a lot of stuff out because I was I'm going to make this fit into a genre that I know people are going to read. Because, if you're going to write something and then just give it to your family and, that's it, where are you going to go with that? So for me, I was okay, I'm going to find out what the requirements are for this genre, and I'm going to put the story